Hi, everyone. This is on the Scale Adventure podcast. We have an exciting entrepreneur today. Meet Neeraj Satija, who is a co founder and CEO at PSAG Technologies. They're a consulting and a Salesforce implementation company. For those of you who are probably looking at Salesforce, how do we crack that code? You probably want to get in touch with them. It's useful. Neeraj, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. I am excited to have you on our podcast. I'm going to hand over to you. If you can tell us who you are, what you do at PSAG, and probably a little bit of background to yourself, that'll be useful.
Sounds good. Thanks for having me, Selvi. So, PSAG is a Salesforce implementation partner, and we have done over 75 projects till date, most of them high profile customers in places like Australia, UK, India, and the US. And our claim to fame now is that we have a product that is called Easy Integrate. That's a Salesforce native product that allows for a quick, clickable integration with external applications.
Oh,
So
cool.
without the need for a middleware like Zapier or MuleSoft or any of those, you can integrate Salesforce with an external application in a matter of minutes. And
Wow.
this is something that we are incredibly proud of because it ends up saving our customers lots of time, lots of effort, lots of pain in that software development process, and obviously lots of savings on the cost. So we have used this Easy Integrate product to help a lot of our customers, predominantly in the travel and tourism domain, fintech, and telecommunications. Those three or four industries are our core competencies. We are domain agnostic. This
Okay.
product is domain agnostic, so it can be applied to any industry virtually, but we've just had the last few implementations on those domains. So, in terms of PSAG's mission, we are trying to use our product and use our expertise and use our developers to now provide this expertise to the SMB
Mm-hmm.
customers predominantly. The small to mid sized businesses typically struggle to have a dedicated Salesforce team in house.
Yeah.
So that's where we come in and we are able to do a good job, predominantly because of our product, to get them to their objectives quickly and more efficiently than anybody else.
Yeah. In fact, I'm so glad you mentioned about Zapier because I used to use a lot of Zapier. I think if you know a simple zap, it's great. But
Yeah,
if you
yeah,
don't, you're dead. It takes hours of trying to figure out, and then the error still shows up. I can at
yeah,
least resonate when you can save money and effort and probably
yeah,
frustration. You could
yeah,
just get the job. So I don't know exactly how your product works, but comparing it to that, this is nothing against API. It has saved my life. But if we can
yeah.
find something easier, it's fantastic, right?
There are a couple of other advantages over external middleware solutions like Zapier. And like you said, nothing against Zapier or MuleSoft or any of these companies that are integration focused technologies, right? But they are another module.
Yes.
So, in addition to Salesforce and the application you're trying to integrate, this is another piece. So, you'll need to have some developers who know how to work with Zapier or MuleSoft or whatever. And then there is development effort there. What we have done instead is a Salesforce native software that's got a very light footprint. And
Mm,
so you don't need another set of developers. You don't need another set of people to manage this external middleware entity, right?
yep.
So you have your Salesforce and you have your application. And we try to make it very efficient in that
Yep.
most tasks can be completed by even non technical people.
Yeah. Wonderful. I remember for a specific zap, I had to find people from different places because I don't know
Yeah,
how to solve that. And then once you solve that
exactly.
problem, then you have a next zap to come, obviously, because
Yeah,
you don't have a skill with someone with all the skills. Maybe it'll be useful for us to look at now that I'm talking about Zapier. Like we said, it's nothing against Zapier also, but primarily talking about the service or offer you have. What are some of the common challenges your audience might have?
right.
Maybe we can look at one or two challenges that they may have.
Yeah. So predominantly, the biggest challenge they have is that they need to integrate their Salesforce with one or more applications. And to do that, especially if you're in the SMB segment, you won't have a dedicated team or a big team to take care of your project management, and because this is complex, right? The integrations are complex. So it's predominantly focused on solving that issue of lack of in-house resources
Mm.
and the opportunity cost that's inherent, because if you focus on your integration project, which can take several weeks, maybe months, right? You are taking focus away from other productive things you can be
Mm. Yep.
focused on. So we come in and we do this integration fairly quickly, and we offer a couple of models for them. One is where they can use our product and just help us understand the interfaces they want to integrate. We do the integration, we walk away. Or they can continue using our services beyond that for their ongoing development needs,
Yeah.
support, maintenance, etc. So, anyways, the integration is the number one thing, especially in the SMB segment. The second challenge that a lot of our customers face, not just the SMB segment, but also the enterprises, all kinds of customers, is that they are not able to get away from a lot of these proprietary software, right? Even small size companies, invariably they have Salesforce, they have QuickBooks, they have
Mm.
something else for their HR management. So they have all these other technologies,
Yeah.
right, that they
For
now
different
have to
departments.
contend with. Even for technologies or products that are built on the same technologies, sometimes the implementation is so different
Mm-hmm.
that they need to have specialists for each of those modules. So, this variety of skill sets that they now need is another big challenge for them. Just because we are Salesforce native in our product, they don't need to learn a new skill.
It's so interesting that you talked about the skill sets. Sometimes it's multiple skill sets, right? And we say in marketing that somebody is looking for someone, let's say if they're looking at forming a marketing team, they
Yeah.
generally think, oh, I need a marketer who can solve my
Yes.
problem. The fact is,
Yes.
you're not going to
Yes.
find one individual who actually knows all that's required, the skill sets,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
varied and it's a notion. And then mostly when you hire someone with a skill, they are able to make that A work or not
Yes.
sometime, but then the
Yes.
rest are left out. And to be able
Yes.
to hire every individual skill, it's crazy. Unless you're a big company with a massive budget, you don't have a plan for it. So I resonate with that because to some extent we're also say, okay, wait, why don't you hire us? And we've got different things going on. We can actually take care of it. If I understood, that's what you're also meaning to say in Salesforce.
Yes.
You're not going to be
Exactly.
able to hire the kind of skills that you want. Instead, you could give it to us. And in fact, you may end up saving money and not be accountable for a full-time salary for so
Yeah,
many.
skills can be different technologies, right? So you can code in Salesforce, you can code in Java, you can code in .NET and whatnot, right? There's lots of technologies. But while that's one consideration, the other consideration is a project where you're integrating an application with
Mm,
another application, you need more than just developers, right? You need somebody to project manage, you need somebody to define your requirements.
yeah,
Maybe there's a designer who designs that interface, and then a lot of testing, right?
yeah.
So the skills don't only pertain to development skills, it's the entire project team that's needed.
Delivering the entire project is what you're
Delivering
accountable.
it, absolutely.
Super. I love that. So, this is an interesting question I keep asking because I do feel like, let's say, if somebody watches this video and they feel like, okay, all that's great, and everybody that I meet who want to sell to me say the same thing, what is the one thing I can do right now, even if I don't work with you? Because I do believe in giving value, even if people don't work with us, right? So, let's say this is to the SMBs, or you can pick whoever the audience that you're looking at, focusing on for them to do with respect to handling their Salesforce or cloud or anything. What is the one thing they should be stopping? What's the one thing they could start right away?
So, one thing they should be stopping, and this is something I talk to a lot of customers and urge them to stop, is to add more modules without truly having a roadmap. So, I urge everybody to have a roadmap so they know where they're going and then making the best choices in that direction. Because what happens, Selvi, is that very quickly, even for small customers, even for mid-sized customers, right? They have this organic explosion of applications and technology sets
Hmm.
that before they know it, they have this entire set of applications that they struggle to maintain, right? And then
Mm.
they're having to hire people to run it. And so it's very painful. And what I recommend that people do is that they work with Salesforce implementation partners, because that's who is going to understand the technology and also hopefully the domain. And in the longer term, the total cost of ownership of that relationship is going to be much better than going with a generalist.
Hmm.
And I truly believe that. I've seen lots of examples where companies have invested millions of dollars working with other implementation partners that were just not focused on Salesforce. Yeah, bring specialists for this job. And usually those are the Salesforce certified implementation partners.
Right. Who basically have the knowledge, have managed projects before, know how to do it, don't have to break your head to be able to solve it with them so they can do it.
Yeah, and also, especially if you can find somebody who understands your domain, because usually it's the business driving the technology, right? So just understanding the technology doesn't
Yes,
do so.
solve the
It's
problem. Yes.
so you got to really understand the space. You got to understand the pain points in that domain, and understand what solutions may already exist to
That you can
fix
use.
that pain point, right? So it has to be very holistic, it has to be very strategic, and because there's a lot of expertise, a lot of technical and domain skills needed. So work with those certified partners would be my recommendation.
Okay. Now that you mentioned it, I do want to ask this question. What is the one thing or two things that they need to look for when they're looking for a Salesforce partner? Because everybody could be saying the same thing. I'm certified, I'm gold partner, platinum, and whatever that is available.
Yeah,
And I can imagine why it could be confusing because I've heard people saying all these marketers use these jargons and it's confusing. So one of the
yeah,
reason I keep it in super basic business understanding, not to speak the marketing language, because end of the day, let's be honest, result what matters, not using these words and overwhelming people. But
yeah.
what are one or two things they should be like a red flag? These are two different questions. We can either look at the red flag or we can look at what you need to look for to hire a Salesforce agency.
So that's a good question. And I think there are a lot of factors when you go and select an integration partner. And I'm not just going to point out the bad apple, right? There are obviously certified partners that are not as efficient
Yeah,
as others. But when you are, as a business, you are trying to find the right partner for you to implement your Salesforce going forward, I think what you should look at is their credentials, their
mm-hmm.
past track record. Also, if they focus on your domain, they understand your space. Also, especially if they build a product in that space, right? That is the litmus test, because if they
I
built a
see.
product, they understand that space. That's why they have been able to build a successful product. And that combination is hard to get. You'll find that there are companies that just focus on custom software development and that's all they do. And then there are companies that do products and they just focus on products. So having somebody who has built a product and is able to use that expertise and apply that to their customers' problems, I think that to me is a huge plus. And obviously, at the end of the day, it comes down to cost.
Yes,
And again, from PSAG's perspective, because we have this product, it allows us to come in faster, better, cheaper
I see.
than
For
if
this.
you were hand coding your solution.
Yeah, I love that. I also understand that why, if somebody's built a product, you can't build on something if you don't understand what's going on.
Yes,
So
yes,
I thought that
yeah.
was very useful. I do know we've talked about some of the challenges your clients face. Maybe we can talk about one or two challenge you guys are having as PSAG. This is not backwards of, okay, you know what, I'm struggling right now. No, it's that all of us have some kind of a future that we envision that we want to make happen, even 12 months from now. Looking at that future, what are one or two challenge you see arise?
Yeah, the biggest challenge we face constantly, right? And this remains like the number one challenge, irrespective of what's happening, is the availability of good developers, right?
Mm,
So I find that a perpetual challenge because there are only a small number of really good developers. And then you have to basically groom some junior developers into that senior role. And there's a lot of investment in that, investment of time, effort, and money.
And they might
And
leave.
exactly, right? So it's a free market. So you do all that investment and
They leave.
prepay and
Hmm.
they leave, right? But you got to do that, right? You got
Yes,
to continue grooming the next generation
yes,
and you
yes,
got to continue making that investment because a lot of it comes down to also developing your in-house ability to train and to provide career paths for your team, right?
yes.
So if you
Yeah.
provide that career path, there is a bit of an aspirational focus in our team members. So even if some of them leave, that's fine. The ones that stay back, they take the race forward. But yeah, having good developers is a constant struggle. And I believe that it's a problem that's faced by a lot of companies, not just us. You also asked me about, you said one big problem, and I forgot the second part of your question.
I was saying, looking at the future, what are one or two
Right,
challenges that
right.
you
Okay.
see? And obviously, this whole people as a challenge, I've heard this now too many times. I probably must
Yeah.
tweak my question to what people challenge are you facing right now? Is there a second challenge?
Yeah, there is. And the second challenge is the constant evolution of not just the technologies, but the industry as a whole is changing so rapidly.
Mm,
A lot of the roadmaps that we now see with companies, if I cast my mind back to a few years ago, the roadmaps for most companies back then used to be more static. They used to be
mm,
more achievable and realistic. And now I'm seeing companies come up with roadmaps that constantly change. They're changing like every quarter, right? And I'm not blaming them. They're changing because they're responding to the market
yeah,
conditions.
absolutely.
But they change rapidly. And even then, once you have something in place for delivery, the requirements change, right? And that's nothing new. That's going on for times immemorial. But the requirements change so fundamentally these days that you got to be constantly on your feet to understand how you deliver those challenges. But I think it's a sign of the times.
Yeah,
It's a sign that in these times, unless a company is hyper focused and specialized on the problem that they're trying to solve, they just cannot be competitive,
yep.
right? They are constantly pivoting, right? And for that reason, they are changing their requirements, they're changing their roadmaps. But I feel confident that because of the IP that we have built and the capabilities that we have in house, it's a lot of work, don't get me wrong, but we are able
Yeah.
to respond to those changes.
Yeah, I totally understand on the pivot that's going on. And I've worked with startups for so many years. We've also been those people that induced those pivotal changes. So I understand both the sides. Sometimes you're feeling like, I cannot change this quickly. But at the same time, wait, you can't just stay with what's going on. And the fact is, last 3 years, so much has changed. It's changed beyond our imagination. So I do understand why the flexibility is key to be able to really get the kind of clients that we want to work with. So I
Yes.
do know this is my last question, and I just added this because I know this is coming. I know there's a group of people, and when I don't have a particular group, I'm just putting them in a category of people that are thinking of recession already and preparing and doing whatever. I do relate to the recession slightly differently. And I must say, my first recession was just, I was a graduate,
Yeah.
2009, and I started
Yeah.
a company. And I remember we were laughed at because you're fools to firstly not get a job because we were not looking for a job and we were anyway going to start something and we were going to be in employability program we started during recession. It was such a funny experience with people, but a fun experience building something that was given an
Mm.
award and blah 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 blah. How is it looking like? What is your perspective in the next 12-24 months? We have no idea. Part of it looks scary. What are you guys doing about it?
So that's a great question, and nobody has a crystal ball. But yes, the general perception in the market is that a recession is coming, and a bad one at that. And people are not spending as much money as they were in the last quarter and the last year in anticipation of this recession, right? Now, that's where we come in, right? That's where PSAG comes in, and we are able to offer our customers a great solution that comes in at a cost that is a fraction of what they would be otherwise spending without jeopardizing on their business objectives, their KPIs, and their roadmap. And for that reason, I think we are excited about this coming
Right.
few months because it presents us with an opportunity to help more customers and make a bigger impact in this space.
So at least for us, I am excited too because I think the last time when it was there, we really grew. But I do feel it's so much on the mindset, right? Because recession is probably best time for you to really make it work if you're focused on results. So I am to some extent excited, and I'm glad you're also focusing on the upside and excited about creating that. And hopefully it won't be a bad one. But if it is, hey, we're going to anyway march forward and do whatever it takes. But anyway, thank you so much for joining on this podcast, Neeraj. It was wonderful talking to you. As usual, it was so relaxed, at the same time, informative and useful. And I believe, especially with some of the things that you talked about, why they should stop something and start something, and some of the challenges that potential audience have faced. And at the same time, also giving an intro to PSAG and the product that you've built. So hopefully, people who probably watch and learn more about what you do and probably reach out to you. But I really want to wish you guys all the best, especially with PSAJ and the product that you're launching, looking at the next 12, 24 months, that you really make something big happen with the company. So thank you so much for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me. I had a good time. It was good to talk to you, and I look forward to talking to you again in the near future.
My pleasure.